Weather's looking beautiful, let's head out for the day. We'll catch a feed of flatties the good old-fashioned way. I know a little place to go to get some light relief. It's just somewhere between the river and the reef. So you think you'll catch a big one with all your fancy gear? A day out on the water with the rods, the reels and beer. If you come home empty-handed, your mates will give you grief, but you are still between the river and the reef.
Hi and welcome to River to Reef, our very first episode. On this week's program, Joel Stoddard will show us the use of mango lures and of course a big range of skirted lures. We'll go up to Lake Eildon and have a look at what downrigging's all about with Phil Wall. And Steve will be along to show us how to rig up a boat for sport and game fishing, the essential equipment you need and some of the gear that you won't need. All on River to Reef. Here's Joel.
Thanks Glenn. Any fisherman that's walked into a tackle store recently will know there's a huge variety of lures to choose from, all claiming to be the best and all trying to get hold of your money. Over the next few episodes we're going to talk about the most common lures used today and which ones suit your needs, so the next time you walk into a tackle store you'll know exactly where to go and how much you need to pay. The first type of lure we're going to look at today is these skirted trolling lures. As you can see, they come in a range of sizes and colours, from these kingfish lures, tuna lures, right up to the big marlin lures. Now if you're fishing with these, you can expect to pay in excess of $250. The reason they're so expensive is because you're not only paying for the lure head and skirt, you're also paying for this sort of hardware and rigging. As you can see, these lures are used to catch 400 and 500 pound marlin, so you've got to have the right terminal tackle down at the business end. No knots required here, it's all crimped, D-shackles and then shrink wrapped, so there's no nicks and nothing to get in the way when you hook up to that fish of a lifetime. When it comes to head shape, one of the most popular is this pusher or chugger type. As you can see, it's a concave shape which allows it to push water and foam out of the way as it reaches the surface and dives back down, dragging with it some air and leaving air trails behind. Now when it comes to colours, there's thousands upon thousands of colours out there for you to choose from. Truth is, no one knows exactly why fish strike different colours at different times. The best advice I can give you is have a variety of colours and use them all across the day until you find the one that the fish is striking on. If you don't have a range of colours, you could spend your whole day out there trolling around and all you needed was that one extra colour and you would have hooked up and turned a bad day into a great day. While we're talking about surface lures, there is another type of lure I want to talk about. It's called a surface popper. Now these, you can see, have got a similar shaped head to the skirted trolling lure. They create a big splash, a lot of commotion as they go across the surface. The good thing about these is that they're light and they're castable. You don't need to trawl them. If you see a school of bait fish milling around your boat, you can put this on your casting rod and drag it through as fast as you can. All the excitement in the water with this pushing through, making waves, you're bound to hook up whatever's chasing those bait fish. The next type of lure I want to talk about is a bib lure. Now this is probably the largest range of lures in Australia and every fisherman's got one of these in his tackle box. They come in a huge range of sizes, shapes and colours, all for different types of fish. So if we go down here, these are the smaller salmon type lures, move into slightly larger barramundi, queenfish type lures, then we're starting to get up into tuna territory here, big tuna, big albacore here. This is a Goliath lure brought in by Mango Fishing Lures. The first thing you'll notice about bib lures is that all of them have their own unique shaped bib on the front. The bib has two functions. Firstly, it allows the lure to reach certain depths depending on the size of the bib. Secondly, it dictates the motion or the action of the lure as it swims through the water. You'll notice that the size of the bib and the angle of the bib will determine how deep the lure dives. So these smaller lures, they're not going to go much further than 5 or 6 feet. When you get down to some of these larger lures with the bigger bibs, they're going to get down to 12, 13 feet, and then these ones even further down, maybe even 15, 20 feet if trawled fast enough. Unlike your skirted lures, all bib lures come pre-rigged with the manufacturer's treble hooks and split rings. Now you need to be careful here when you're spending your hard-earned money that you're getting what you pay for. The first thing to check, once you've decided on what size lure and what shape lure you want to use, is to check the terminal tackle, the split rings and hooks, and are they going to be up to the task of the type of fish you're trying to catch. It's no good having a lure this size and a split ring and a treble hook that can only take 20 pounds worth of pressure. As far as pricing goes for bib lures, you can expect to pay anywhere between $4 right up to $30 and $40 depending on terminal tackle and whereabouts you are in Australia, because I know up there in north, when they're hard to get and the fish are biting on them, you can expect to pay top dollar. So take your wallet with you, especially if you're heading up to the top end of the country.
In this section we're going to talk about setting up a boat for fishing. My boat's set up just for offshore fishing, not just for Port Phillip Bay and Western Port. So a lot of the items that I've got on it you don't necessarily need, but we'll run through a few of the features. With my boat it's what they call a DV hull. With a single motor it's very easy to have it tipped to one side or the other. So we've got electric trim tabs, or the hydraulically electric trim tabs, that operate to keep the boat level. It'll cut through the water much better if it's in a vertical position. I've put these supports, you may call them, but they're protectors so that they don't damage the trim tab or somebody doesn't tend to cut themselves on it. They're stainless steel and they're solid. The transducer, that's for my depth sounder. This transducer is what they call a triducer. It's also set up for water temperature and boat speed. Water temperature is very handy when you're fishing offshore. Not necessarily so much for snapper, but if you're fishing for even as small as garfish, you might want to run a bit of burley out. When we tend to fish offshore cubing, we use the burley bucket a lot. This burley bucket's made by Bermuda and it's very, very easy to remove and clean back at the boat ramp. Very handy. Okay, with my boat, again, I've got it very well fitted out, but it's also fitted for offshore fishing. We do a lot of live baiting and we do a lot of sharking. But when we're fishing around Port Phillip Bay, there's just some small items that we always make sure that we have. Some of these items are as simple as a snapper rack or rod rack. These are great because you can move them out of the way, take them right out, or just turn them to the side and they'll lock into position. When they are locked into position properly, they're just the right angle for your rod to sit when you're waiting for that big red to come. There's many different bait boards on the market, some of them very practical, some of them useless. I quite like this type of system. It's large enough so that I can fillet a small fish, I can cut up my baits, I can keep plenty of cubes available, and if my knife does slip, it falls back into there. I don't know how many knives I've lost off the back of a boat. Talking on knives, you need somewhere handy to put them. A knife floating around a boat over a wave when somebody's trying to grab hold of it to get somewhere secure can be very dangerous. Simple thing, I've just got a couple of knife holders in the back of the boat. Screw it in there and the knife's not going to move. This boat is also fitted up with a couple of small areas here. Of course, the D-hooker. I don't know what we ever did without those, with a flathead, scaler, knife sharpener, knot line clipper, fish kill, and just a cheap little brush. So when we want to clean down, which we do as we go, it keeps a lot of the oil off and makes things a lot easier when you get back to the ramp, that they're not all stuck on, harder to clean. My boat's fitted with a deck wash. There's many different systems on the market. This is just a cheaper one, but it definitely does the job for what I want to do. Most better boats nowadays are fitted with a live bait tank. These keep the water circulating and keep bait fish swimming around and keep them alive, nice and fresh for when you want them. You can also fill them with ice, and if you want to throw some of your fish in there, or even set up a fish slurry if you want to keep some of those nice snapper nice and fresh till you get back. A lot of the newer boats are fitted with rod racks along the side. Mine's a little bit older, but I definitely use these pockets to my advantage. I always keep some certain items on the boat that won't clutter it up. Something like a lead line if we're fishing for, say, salmon under the surface or fishing for some pike. I always have a roll of 15 kilo line I use for trace, and saves you looking around for it in the middle of the night. Sits in there and we can just pull out the amount that we need. Always keep a plastic container just fitted up into the front there. Not sure if you can see it, but that's where, when we're chasing for heavier sinkers, not the ones that you keep in your tackle box, or when you finish with them, you can just put them in there and they're not going to roll around your boat. On this side, again, I keep some things that are handy. This side I use mainly for my burley equipment. I always have on the boat a burley cage. They come in different designs, and there's some good homemade ones around that you can use. This one here, weighted at the bottom, will get my burley to the bay floor, and that's great for snapper. I always have a good cord for use with such, and I always make sure that I've got a supply of tuna oil on board. My boat's not fitted with the new fish tanks that a lot of the boats have, so we had to improvise. What we've done here, we've fitted a large angle esky, and it sits in the middle of the cockpit of the boat, and for here we can keep our drinks, we can keep our bait fresh, and when we get those nice fish, we can put them in there on ice. It also doubles as a seat when you're sitting out there and you want somewhere to rest. The idea is that you can walk right around this. It's not, with a lot of boats you see them at the back of the boat and you've got to reach over them or step over them when you're fighting a large fish. Make sure you don't do this. When you do a lot of fishing, it's very important that your rods are out of the way, the ones that you're not using. I don't know how many times people tread on their rods, but even worse, trip over them. Rods are expensive, so are the reels. Put them away where they're nice and secure. A good solid rod rack fitted at a boat, or rocket launcher as they're sometimes known, is very important. The one on my boat holds 6 rods. Sometimes I wish I could hold more, but that's fine. I've also fitted it up with 2 spotlights. These spotlights face back down into the interior of the boat or the cockpit for the fishing area, so when you need to be setting up there on those nights when you want to snap a fish all night. Far too bright for usage all the time, but just to turn on to rig up, very important. Another item that I fitted onto my rod rack is a rod holder that runs off to the side. I don't use it for trawling like most people think, but if I'm out shark fishing and I'm running a balloon out with a live bait on, this gets the rod well out of the way of the other rods and reels that we may be bottom bouncing with. Very handy, and something to consider if you do a bit of shark fishing. Remember, my boat is quite elaborately set up, but that's to suit the type of purposes of fishing that I do. You may not want to fish so much offshore. Maybe you just want to fish in the rivers or just around Port Phillip or Western Port Bay. Set it up how you want, but most importantly, keep it safe.